Now, on the surface, this doesn't seem like it would be a very good video to debate because the manager just seems unprofessional and disrespectful, and that she gets fired, and there's nothing more to say than that. But the truth is that if you look at the different points of view, not just the managers, but the company they work for, the employee, her children, and even the news station, and just anyone that watched it and commented about it. There's so many different points of view and situations in this that it's a really interesting video to debate. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play the video for you, and then, yeah, we'll talk about it.
A Salt Lake City restaurant right at the center of a very controversial viral video today says they fired a manager seen in that video.
It showed a confrontation involving the manager and an employee and her family. Fox 13's Lauren Steinbrecher joins us now to explain what unfolded in the video that the City Creek Eatery is now calling appalling.
Right, Bob. So the family says they were trying to translate for their mom to ask for a raise because their mom doesn't speak English fluently. What unfolded in that video next has sparked outrage online. You don't see what comes before this.
I'm just trying to translate for my mom, and you're kicking me out.
But you can tell it's a conversation quickly turning sour.
You seriously just cost your mom her job.
At the City Creek Core Life Eatery Thursday afternoon.
Get the hell out of my restaurant right now. Get out.
Omar Fuentes says he started recording after he and his sister tried to translate for their mom to ask her manager about a raise they say she was told she'd get several months ago.
She needed help, and that's why we were there.
She didn't even let me finish asking the question. By the time she was already yelling at me and telling me to get out, and that I shouldn't be telling her what to pay her employees, and that if my mom has a problem with the pay, that she's the problem and she's the one that should leave and stuff like that.
Omar says he stepped in to ask the manager for corporate's number. When you see the manager fire back, speaking partly in Spanish.
You no más trabajo here. Your Nino, your Nina, no bueno. They want to come in my restaurant, cause mucho drama. You no más.
What the? I just wanted to get your...
Get them out of here. Now.
The manager fires Connie Fuentes Aguera, calls security, and trespasses the family from Core Life. The next day, after hundreds of thousands of views on social media,
She never told me why she was kicking us out.
We will not tolerate this type of behavior and have taken swift action.
Core Life apologized, said they've fired the manager, and reached out to the Fuentes family to give Connie her job back.
It's completely unacceptable. We don't like to see anybody treated that way.
So from the employee's point of view, if I was told I was going to get a raise, and after several months I hadn't gotten it yet, I absolutely would ask about it. Want to ask about it, get someone to ask about it, Now this brings us to the first question of our debate. No, absolutely not. Unless I had the manager's permission in advance to bring my kids in to translate, I would never do that. And the reason why is some managers would be very offended that you did that. They'd consider it to be unprofessional, and they would think less of you for doing it. So for that reason alone, I wouldn't do it. Now, I know that some managers wouldn't care, and it wouldn't bother them at all, but I wouldn't risk it, If I was the employee, the first thing I would do would be to find another employee that spoke English and Spanish and ask for their help. If there was no such employee, the next thing I would do would be I would use my phone. I would have like a translation thing on my phone set up, and even if I didn't know how to do that, I would ask my kids to help me and have the questions ready to go, translated already, so I could just hand my phone to my boss and go from there, and where she could type in, her replies and stuff, and I would take it from there. I feel bad for the kids, but at the same time, the kids learned a valuable lesson. And I will start by saying, though, that the kids wanting to help their mom, having her back, because she clearly needed help, I admire that about them. Some kids wouldn't have cared. They, wouldn't have wanted to get involved, and because they, just wouldn't have wanted to help or whatever. But her kids did, so as I said, that's cool. But whosever idea it was to go talk to the manager, whether the kids came up with the idea or their mom did, the employee. I mean, either way, that's a really bad idea in my opinion, unless they got her permission in advance to do that. Because as I said, some managers would never be cool with your kids coming in to translate. As I said already, some wouldn't would be cool with it. They wouldn't mind at all. But if you got a manager that did mind, it would be bad, which is what happened. And I mean, I'm going to lead to this manager was not cool with what they did. And and then the other thing about this is that um, asking about their mom's raise and stuff, some managers would totally flip out about that. Like they'd view that as like very unprofessional, like bad manners, disrespectful, whatever you want to say, that's what take it. And even if you that are listening to me wouldn't take it that way, and I wouldn't take it that way, some absolutely would. I mean, even in her home country, some managers would not be cool with your kids asking about your raise. They wouldn't be cool with that at all. So I mean, it's just this, unfortunate that the kids had to go through that. I can understand why the manager was mad, but firing her employee was also unprofessional. I mean, she could have told her kids that, coming in asking about the raise, that is unprofessional of them to do, and that she would reschedule like an appointment practically to talk about their mom's raise, and that the manager would provide the translator that they approved of to talk about it, and then they would go over it again, when everyone's calm, or be more rational and logical. Now, many people in the comments have called the manager racist. Now, in their defense, it's not super obvious to why the manager got upset like that. So saying she's racist would be, where their mind would go to why she would behave like that. I don't know what country the mom or the employee is from, but in any country where Spanish is the most popular language, I mean, if you are Hispanic, Latino, Latina employee, and you send your kids and to ask about your raise to your Hispanic, Latino, Latina boss, some bosses are not going to be cool with that. There of course is going to be exceptions. Some will be cool with it, some aren't going to care, but some of them are not going to be cool with that at all. I don't have to go to any of those countries. I don't even have to speak Spanish to know that some of those bosses are not going to be cool with that. So I mean, calling the manager in this video racist is just there's no proof in this video that she's racist at all that I see. Now, I obviously don't know the answer to the question, but it's an interesting question. It's how much does the company truly care about, how the employee was treated, and if they really have a problem with it, or do they really just care that if they don't defend her, they're going to lose a lot of money and be called racist, and it will be very bad for the company in general if they, don't do something. So it's interesting about how much do they truly care. Now, what is really interesting about this comment is that there's always going to be people that have a problem with this, and that there's always going to be people that are going to keep talking that way. So they're always going to be debating with each other and having a conflict. But what I would call this is figure of speech, where you say something and you don't mean it literally. Like, when you're saying it that it's not literally that way. So like when she says it's my store, or like or as a head manager you talk like that, they know they don't own the store, but they still are going to talk like that. It's no different than, like, there's people that are like 60 years old or older that will call someone 25, 30 a kid, like they will, and they'll call them a kid. There's men and women that will call their romantic partner baby, okay? And they know that their romantic partner is not a baby. So it's going to keep happening. And yes, I don't personally have an issue with someone saying my store or whatever when they're the head manager, because if they, get blamed for, they'll get blamed for whatever, like being the head manager. So, I mean, yeah, there's tons of people, even for sports fans, right? They'll say this is my team, or we won, we lost, when they're not on the team, It's, yeah, I'm sure you've all met someone like that. So it's figure of speech. Now, I want you to look at this photo and specifically read the title. Now, when you read this title, what color do you think the manager is, just by reading the title? Like, have you never seen this before? What color do you think the employee and the children are, just by reading that title? Now, you see, many news companies, they'll do these things because, number one, they'll get more clicks, they'll get more views, they'll make more advertising money, and they'll immediately set some people off and it will trigger them by reading a title like that. And the interesting thing about that is that Latino is not a race, and that you technically can be any color and be Latino, Latina. Like, you can be like a mixture, obviously. But the truth is that when people read that title, they're not going to assume, oh, this is going to be a white Latina. I really doubt that's going to happen when you're going to read that title. So it's just, it immediately sets up the emotions of people. Now, from the news channel's point of view, it's very smart. In reality, they should have said white restaurant manager fired. They should have said that, because that would have been, they would have got even more clicks had they done that. So it's just interesting to see it from that point of view. And what do you think of that?